Another reason why I wrote it is that StoneAge is an employee-owned company, and we're very passionate about changing the narrative of where wealth creation happens. Why can't the people who are creating the value, employees, get to share in the success? And we're seeing, all kinds of issues because of income inequality. Populist movements happen because of income inequality.
Right. And
not the only reason, but that's a big part of it. When people just feel like there's not a better opportunity for them to live a better life because they are losing their job, or they don't know how to upskill, or they are barely making it paycheck to paycheck. And worker ownership, it's one of the few bipartisan issues that are out there. Still, everybody agrees that worker ownership is a very, very good thing. And so we want to be that role model. We want to show other companies that it's possible to build a great company by putting your people first and sharing in the success of the company.
Got it.
So those are the two reasons why I wanted to write.
The very latest on economic development, workforce, and industry sector news in Southern Colorado. Here is Business Digest Weekly with our host, Dirk Hobbs.
All right, good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Business Digest Weekly. I'm your host, Dirk Hobbs. It is Friday, September 20th. We're almost into October.
Crazy.
Oh, my gosh.
This year has gone by so fast.
That's Kerry Siggins across the board for me. She's going to hang out with us for about an hour and talk about some projects she's doing. Amazing work. She's based out of Durango, but she gets all over the place with her new books, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. But before we do, I want to draw your attention to some of the things that are happening down here in Southern Colorado. Veteran Small Business Conference, November 1st at Great Wolf Lodge. Absolutely spectacular event. And then the BBB is putting on a Night of Excellence, November 21st at the Hotel Polaris. This is excellence in customer service. So if you're a kind of a service snob like I am, you definitely want to get involved in this because you want excellent service, right?
Oh, yes.
I think we're going to get into a little bit of that. Okay. Yes. So the BBB's Night of Excellence is coming Thursday, November 21st, Hotel Polaris. You got to register for it, though. It's a nightofexcellence.org. Next up, actually, before all those November events, we've got the UCCS Economic Forum. The registration is still open right now. So next week, next Thursday, in fact, is when the event is. And it's up at the Ent Center for the Performing Arts on Nevada. So get out there and register. Just go into your search engines, type in UCCS Economic Forum, and off you go. It'll be a fantastic way to get yourself updated on what's going on. Dr. Bill Craighead, executive director out there, is going to lead a great forum. He's got the state demographers coming in. She is a spectacular speaker. And you might think, well, demography, how interesting can that be? But it's very fascinating, the perspectives that she lends to this conversation. So it's pretty terrific stuff. And then they've got several breakout sessions and then receptions on both ends of the forum itself. So it starts at noon and goes to about 5 o'clock, and you can register online as well. Breakfast of Champions, the Peak Vista Community Health Centers, they were in here last week talking to us about the impact that a community health center has on healthcare in any given region. And this particular group, Peak Vista Community Health Centers, does a fantastic job of capturing those who are in between health insurance or have found themselves on hard times and they're looking for access to care. This helps us not to burden the emergency rooms and the urgent cares around the region, because a lot of times, when you fall on hard times and you don't have insurance and you find yourself sick or stressed out and you're in the ED, that's an expensive bill. Now that's on you. Whereas at Peak Vista, you can really manage your care day to day, week to week with a primary care provider and specialist through their organization. Absolutely spectacular group. They're all over the county here in El Paso County, so definitely get to know them. But they have a great event coming up with an Olympian who's going to come in and speak. And we're also going to celebrate Bill Hybl as the champion of health here in Southern Colorado. That's October 16th at the Broadmoor Hall. And then finally, National Cybersecurity Speaker Series starts in November as well. That's November 20th. And you want to go to the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC to sign up for that. So that's kind of what's going on around the region. Glad you're with us here on Business Digest Weekly. And we're hanging out with Kerry Siggins, author, CEO, podcaster, all around.
Mom. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well,
all kinds of stuff.
welcome to the program.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about you. I like to orient our listeners and now viewers as to who is across the board from us.
Yeah. So I live in Durango. I run this amazing company called StoneAge, and we're going to get into it. But we make water jetting equipment, so high-tech squirt guns on steroids. I'm a Colorado native. I grew up in Montrose. Spent my whole life trying to figure out how not to live on the Western Slope.
Oh, really?
You grow up in a small town, and I had big city visions for myself, and so
got it.
I was ready to go spread my wings, and I left Montrose when I was 18 to go to Colorado School of Mines, and I played softball there. Graduated from Mines in 2001. Did a short stint in Texas, and I realized that was not the life for me. And I came back to the Western Slope, and that was almost 18 years ago. 18 years ago in November.
Very good.
So yeah, it's been a wild journey, and I have loved almost every minute of it.
So, what did you study at School of Mines?
I studied mechanical engineering and business econ.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you were just wired to go into that, or what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Well, I didn't really know what engineers did when I made the decision to go to mines. I made the decision to go to mines because I was trying to prove myself. And I got in a little bit of trouble in high school. And my mom basically was like, when you're 18, you are out of this house. I don't care what you do. You can work at Walmart for the rest of your life. And I was like, what? You don't think I'm going to college? She's like, you don't go to school now. Why would I think you're going to college?
That's funny.
So I realized that the behaviors I was exhibiting wasn't going to make me successful. So I decided to completely take a 180, and I decided I was going to go to School of Mines, and I was going to get a softball scholarship just to prove that I was smart enough and I could get into college and do great things. So I'm naturally good at math and science. So I had people who were encouraging me to do that. But when I got to Mines, I realized I didn't have any desire to be an engineer. But my dad, being great advice, just joking. He was like, I don't think you're smart enough to graduate from engineering school. And so I had that voice in the back of my head, and there was no way that I was going to not. So I stuck it out, and it was a great decision, but it was really tough. And I had a little bit of PTSD after Mines.
Did you? Too much engineering, huh?
Yeah, it's a tough school.
Yeah, it is
it's a really tough school. And when you know that this isn't what you want to do with your life, but you stick it out, that's tough. It takes a lot of mental strength to persevere through the, getting 2 degrees and then going, okay, at least I'm not going to use one of them.
Okay, fair enough. But would you say, was your dad in this industry or?
No, my dad was in and out of my life. My dad's in construction, and he's in and out of my life. And just, happened to be in my life in the moment that I was deciding where I was going to school. But my dad is also naturally gifted in math as well. So I don't know why he wasn't supportive of it, but I've never asked him that. I don't even know if he'd remember saying it to me. But it was a motivator.
It was fuel. Yeah.
It was fuel. So, I think you can look at a lot of things in life, and I've done a lot of work around the trauma that my relationship with my dad caused me. And I've gotten to the point in my life where I can be really grateful for it, because even though it did lead me to make some really poor decisions in my life, it also was fuel to be able to prove him wrong. And it's led to a lot of my success.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, glad you're here. We get to unpack this, hanging out with Kerry Siggins, author, CEO of a company on the Western Slope down in Durango, actually. They're called StoneAge. They're water blasters.
Water blast.
Explain this a little bit to
I know. It's a very niche thing that we do, but incredibly important. So we make industrial high pressure water jetting equipment. So think about your pressure washer at your house, right? Yeah. So the pressure coming out of that might be anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 psi. Enough to clean your driveway and the dirt off of your house. Our tools start at 2,500 and go up to 40,000.
It gets great paint off a surface.
Surface prep, cleaning, and so it's used to clean really dirty applications. So they're used in refineries, petrochem plants, food processing plants, power plants, anywhere you'd use ultra high pressure water to clean. And ultimately, we keep the supply chain running, because every single thing that we use comes from an industrial manufacturing facility, and all that equipment has to be maintained. That's making turning crude into gas or creating rubber or plastic or all the things that we use every day. So our tools are used to clean the production equipment in these heavy industrial facilities.
So customers all over the world.
All over the world.
Okay. And you just happen to be based in Durango. Is that a great location for you guys?
It's not. Okay. It's a great location in the sense of the culture and the employees that we have.
Got it.
I mean, people, one, really appreciate great jobs in Durango, but Durango also attracts really amazing people. But the reason why the founders started it in Durango is that they originally developed a water jet tool for mining applications. So they both met at School of Mines. One is a graduate there. One was working as a research assistant in the mining department. And they came up with a way to use a water jet drill to drill holes in rocks to place dynamite for uranium mining applications.
Got it. Okay.
So that made sense because there was a lot of uranium mining happening in Southwest Colorado, that area, New Mexico, Utah. But then 3 Mile Island accident happened back in the late 70s and everybody got scared of nuclear power. And so they lost their market. So they pivoted into industrial cleaning when somebody said, hey, if you can drill holes in rocks with that thing, maybe you can, clean out this pipe filled with plastic. And so that's how we got into industrial cleaning. And it doesn't make sense. Our biggest market in the world is the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana. But, I mean, who wants to live there?
With the oil rigs and everything? Is that kind of your main customer?
Yeah.
So how in the world did you end up walking in that office and saying, I'm looking for some work?
It's a story. So it starts back before Durango. So I had substance abuse issues in my 20s, led from a lot of the things that we've talked about here.
Right on.
And I accidentally overdosed on Labor Day of 2006. And so I came to Durango to heal. That's where my mom lived. I grew up in Montrose, and my mom had moved down to Durango. And I was looking for a job. Okay. And I decided I was going to take a bet. I was going to bet on myself and apply for a position that I was underqualified for. But I worked in manufacturing. I worked for Eaton Corporation, huge manufacturing company in Austin. So the P&L that I was responsible for in a small operations management role was significantly bigger than what StoneAge was at the time. So I put my name in the hat, and
you got in.
The founders just took this huge risk on me and hired me 18 years ago.
Were the founders your actual hiring agent?
Yeah.
They single-handedly said, okay.
They gave me a 50-50 shot of working. But
well, it seems it's turned out really well because you've managed to work your way all the way up to CEO. Yeah. So we're going to come back in a moment and talk further with Kerry Siggins about her journey, not only through this company that she now leads. It's a global company here based in Colorado, but now she's on speaking tours, and she's got a mission and a message for business owners across the world. Stay with us. All right, we're back here, second quarter Business Digest Weekly on a September 20th here in Southern Colorado. It's a beautiful day, but things are going to change here. We're going to get our first little taste of fall.
I heard that.
Yeah. And you got to drive back to Durango.
I do. I have to go back over Wolf Creek Pass. So I'm probably going to get more than a little taste of fall.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull a little mom on you here and say, hey, text me when you get there. Okay.
I will. Thank you. I will.
All right. Kerry Siggins is across the board. She's president and CEO of a little company over in Durango called StoneAge Tools. These guys are a global company. They provide water jets, high-powered water jets, and other things to companies around the world. Who are your main customers, Kerry?
So we sell to industrial cleaning contractors who have maintenance contracts with every major heavy industrial manufacturing facility. So they'll do work at Dow Chemical or ExxonMobil. And a lot of those big facility owners are also our customers. So they might want a custom cleaning solution that doesn't make sense for a contractor to build or buy for them. And so we do a lot of custom engineering for them as well. But it's all based on cleaning.
Okay. So this is not John Q, homeowner, calling you. Probably not.
You do not want to use one of our tools.
Unless you want to blow a hole in the siding of your house.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We do make a line of sewer cleaning nozzles that pretty much everybody here in the state uses. Sure. So when you see those big vacuum trucks on the side of the road, they typically would have a StoneAge nozzle. We call it the Warthog. And it will cut through roots and clean out sewers and do all kinds of great stuff. So that would be the closest that you might see coming to your house and that you would want near your house.
because they're dangerous.
Yeah.
High-powered water guns, is that what you call them? Squirt guns?
High-tech squirt guns on steroids.
Nice.
And it's an incredibly dangerous industry. In fact, getting cut with a water jet is very dangerous. It can kill you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no bueno.
Yeah. It's dangerous. So we care deeply about safety.
Indeed you do. Mm-hmm. Okay. So StoneAgeTools.com if you happen to be one of those types of customers. Otherwise, hang in there and listen to Kerry about something else she's doing, because you've written a book. The book is called Ownership Mindset, and that's where I want to spend a lot of our time today. Because small business owners, and generally Southeast Colorado, it's mostly small business, if not entirely, according to the SBA's definition of what a small business is. But we do have larger employers like Censure or Common Spirit now and UC Health and things like that. But this mindset of establishing ownership mindset in how it bleeds into the culture, that's what I really want to unpack, because I think every owner has that innately in them, right?
Yes.
Because this is their baby.
Yep.
They birthed it. They want to make sure it grows. They want to make sure it's successful. And then everybody they come in contact with to join them on that mission, they want them to feel that same passion. So congratulations on the success of this book.
Thanks.
It's taken off on you?
Yes, it's been fabulous. Far exceeded my expectations.
Very good. Well, you can certainly go to her website, kerrysiggins.com. That's KerrySiggins.com. And of course, you can pick it up at Barnes & Noble or Amazon, or just buy it right off her website.
Yeah, or go to your local bookstore and have them buy it, so that we can support local bookstores, because we need local bookstores.
I remember those.
Yeah.
They were one of my favorite places to hang
They're
out.
Amazing.
They are amazing.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, let's talk about your transition, or what was the impetus for you starting to write these thoughts down?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, COVID. I wasn't traveling the world like I typically do, and I've always had a book in me, and so I thought this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Let's take this time at home and make it happen. It was a lot bigger of a project than I thought it would be. I gave up lots of weekends of skiing because I have to run the company during the week, so. I didn't ski with my son nearly as much as I would have liked to in those winters, but I wanted to get the book done. So that was the timing of it. But really why I wanted to write it is that we have created this really remarkable culture at StoneAge. And I think that there's a couple of reasons why I think people should read it. And one, developing this ownership mindset within your organization, it creates engagement, it creates passion. People care more than just getting a paycheck.
Yeah, showing up and
exactly.
Out. Yeah.
And that's a significant way to fuel growth. Another reason why I wrote it is that StoneAge is an employee-owned company, and we're very passionate about changing the narrative of where wealth creation happens. Why can't the people who are creating the value, employees, get to share in the success? And we're seeing, all kinds of issues because of income inequality. Populist movements happen because of income inequality.
Right.
And not the only reason, but that's a big part of it. When people just feel like there's not a better opportunity for them to live a better life because they are losing their job, or they don't know how to upskill, or they are barely making it paycheck to paycheck. And worker ownership, it's one of the few bipartisan issues that are out there. Still, everybody agrees that worker ownership is a very, very good thing. And so we want to be that role model. We want to show other companies that it's possible to build a great company by putting your people first and sharing in the success of the company.
Got it.
So those are the two reasons why I wanted to write the book.
So how does this dovetail? So the owners hired you. You said they kind of had the mindset of taking a chance on you.
Yeah.
But clearly that was a very good decision for them, because now you are leading this organization. How did that evolve? Give us the truncated version of how you got from barely getting in to now running the company.
So they were looking for a general manager, and so that's what I applied for, and that's the job I ultimately got. But they gave me the title of director of operations, mostly just to pay me less, which I deserved, because here I was, 28, and no experience running a company. And I'd actually even really never managed a person before, not directly, through influence, yes, but not directly. And so they gave me the title of Director of Operations. After the first 3 months, I realized that I needed to work on the manufacturing aspect of the company. So I actually gave up sales and marketing to one of my colleagues and said, you run that, let me run operations and really get some of these problems fixed. And then, we'll talk about what it looks like down the road. And people were surprised that I did that. Like, why would you give up that the whole company? But I really wanted to be successful, and I knew that I needed to focus. But about a year after I was hired, the founder came to me and said, all right, I think you're ready for the general manager position. And I bought a boat, and I want to be gone more. And so I said, okay, let's do it.
Okay.
And so that's when I took back over sales and marketing and became the general manager. And then about a year and a half after that, after we got through the 08-09 crisis, that's when they named me CEO. And so that was in November of 2009.
What was that handoff like from the owners and founders?
It was the transition was faster than what we thought it was going to be. John and I had agreed, one of the founders, John Wilgamot, and I had agreed on a 5-year transition plan. So it was truncated, which I'm fine with. I was good with it, but it was. I know a lot about founder transitions now and how unsuccessful most of them are. It's really hard for a founder to transition their company to a management team. And I think it took both of us and our styles to really make it work. And the biggest gift that they gave me was teaching me how to think and act like an owner. And this was not an intentional thing that they were doing.
So they engendered this?
No.
From the start?
No,
they did not.
It was not intentional.
Okay.
But here's what they both wanted to do something different. And so because they wanted, they'd been running this company, it was almost 30 years old at the time. They knew that they had to hand it off. And so they had to, I think, work really hard to just say, okay, here's the keys to the Porsche, 16-year-old. Don't wreck it. No, it wasn't quite that bad. But John really let me make decisions. And we started out small. So he would ask me, well, what do you think? When I would come in to get his opinion on something. Well, what do you think? You tell me what you think we should do. And most of the time he'd say, yeah, let's go try it. He let me do things that he didn't agree with.
Okay.
Like, for example, they didn't have a budget. It was all in his head.
Sure. But
we didn't have it on paper. I can't run the company without a budget. And he said to me, young lady, he's the age of my dad. And so we had this paternalistic relationship.
Young lady. Okay.
Young lady, this company's never going to have a budget, because if you have a budget, that means that you're going to say, oh, I can't take care of the customer. That's not in the budget. And I was like, I don't think that that's what it's always used for. Why don't we try it? And so he said, I don't agree with it, but let's do it. And that was a really great thing, because when 2009 came and our sales dropped, we had a budget that everybody had put together, and we could make some really tough decisions. Yeah. And we grew 35% in 2010.
Okay.
And it was because of those good decisions that we made. So it was that those types of things that he decided to give up control of decision-making authority and let me do it, even though it was scary and even though he didn't always agree with it. And that really inspired me to own my position. And
well, kudos to him for recognizing and acquiescing and allowing you to bring some orthodoxy to the practice, right?
He is a huge role model. It's exactly the transition that he did is what I plan to follow, because it was really remarkable to watch him. I could watch him grapple with giving up control.
Sure.
And I just tried to be as transparent and open, and I communicated with him all the time. Yeah. And so I want to do the same thing when it's time for me to not be CEO.
That's pretty cool. Now, these were the seeds of what we're going to talk about in the next 2 quarters, which are your book, The Ownership Mindset. Hanging with us because we're hanging out with Kerry Siggins. She is the president and CEO of StoneAge Tools, based in Durango, but a global company. Hey, if you're looking for a new home, Colorado Springs got some things going on here. Just saying.
My good girlfriend who lives down here, she was saying the same thing. Will you please move here?
Yes.
Yeah,
maybe. All right. Well, I'm not going to push too hard, but just know the door and the invitation is open.
Thank you.
All right. So KerrySiggins.com if you want to go look at her website while we're on commercial break here. And then we're going to come back and really get into the book. So stick around. We're going to have some fun with Kerry in just a minute. All right, welcome back to the second half of Business Digest Weekly. It is September 20th here. It is probably the last warm day of the weekend, so I'm going to have myself a cold toddy. I'm ready for the weekend. Are you?
So ready for the weekend.
Okay, so you've got a little bit of a drive ahead of you, though.
Yeah.
So you're going to drive over there, and then you're going to have a toddy.
Exactly.
Or 4. Okay, got it. Well, welcome to the program. Kerry Siggins, author, podcaster, speaker, but she's also the president and CEO of this company on the Western Slope in Durango called StoneAge Tools, global company serving all kinds of different industries. If you want to check them out, go to stoneagetools.com. But we're going to talk more today about her books and her speaking engagements around the country. And it is about the ownership mindset. And I want to get into that in just a minute. If you haven't already subscribed to the Southern Colorado Business Digest, I certainly welcome you to do that. Go to socodigest.com/subscribe, and we will send it to you through email. If you want a printed copy, just let us know that as well, and we'll send it to you so you can put it out there on your waiting table as your guests and your clients wait for you. Also, if you missed it, we also publish a North magazine, which is a business-to-consumer publication that reaches pretty much all of El Paso County. And this month's cover, Travis Deal, he's the CEO of Colorado Springs Utilities. This is a guy like you who started, this guy shoveled coal all the way up to the CEO's office. Awesome. So you started at the bottom and worked your way to the top.
Yeah.
He did too.
That's awesome.
And so he knows every asset in that organization and how it works and how it should work. Yeah. And of course, they've got big challenges. As you know, the water discussion on the Front Range is really tough. So anyway, our rates are going up, but, don't tail gun the CEO, because if you read and understand what they're thinking as a business organization, then you'll start to understand why things need to happen. Hey, we wanted to transition from a coal-based plant into natural gas and ultimately some other renewable energies. Well, we've done that. And now we don't have that plume in the sky anymore, that water plume. That was pretty much a harmless plume. It was a vapor plume that goes up in the wintertime. You saw it basically from October to March of the next year. But that's gone. But now we have this new infrastructure in there. And with that comes some rate hikes. Yeah. And if we want to continue to have that nonstop service and, those lights go on and all that good stuff, got to pay a little more.
People never think about the lights not being on until they don't come on. Just like people don't think about their sewers until you can't flush the toilet.
That's right.
And so utilities and infrastructure matters.
It does matter. So, and of course, 2C's on the ballot this November. So we are definitely proponents. The Southern Colorado Business Forum and Digest is definitely a proponent of 2C. We want to invite everybody to join us and vote yes on 2C. This is a very significant infrastructure component. Put it this way. When a company comes to visit your community, and they land at the airport, which is a great airport here, by the way, Colorado Springs Airport. They come through, they're getting their Uber or taxi or limo over to wherever they're staying, and the driver's dodging huge potholes, okay? That sends a message to that employer that maybe there's some work needs to be done here before we plant our flag here. But with 2C, we've been able to avoid that. And subsequently, the EDC, the city, and other stakeholders have been very successful at recruiting businesses to come in here. And now we have some tremendous economic sector growth in aerospace and defense, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, and others. So that's how that all glues together, folks. That's why we talk about this a little bit, because most people just say, oh, higher taxes, another tax, another this. Yes, but please understand what's under the hood. Read the text. Okay. All right. Well, let's get back to the fun part of this interview. Kerry Siggins is across the board from me. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. I love hearing all of this stuff. Like we were talking about in the break. The Southern Colorado just does amazing things to support businesses, attract businesses. I'm really impressed with what I see here.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And on behalf of the many people out there that are doing just that, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So that's good to hear, folks, from someone who's coming in from the outside saying, hey, we've got some things going on. Well, welcome to the show. And you've kind of walked us through your journey, early journey, and then into StoneAge Tools. Mm-hmm. Now you're in command and control of this organization. Are you long for it? I mean, do you really enjoy that role specifically?
Oh my God, I love what I do. My mom told me that I came out of the womb the CEO of the family. So,
cheers, Mom.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be a CEO. That wasn't like my dream job as a child. And certainly I never even imagined it, even when I started at StoneAge, that's where this was going to go. But I love what I do.
Okay.
I love what I do.
What are some of the intricate parts and pieces that you really enjoy?
I love growing businesses, scaling, disrupting. I love strategy. I like peering into the future and trying to imagine what's going to happen. And how do I position the company not to just meet those changes, but drive those changes? Mm-hmm. So I think that business is the best sandbox to play in.
That's cool.
And I love leadership.
Yeah.
My employees call me the human engineer because I love trying to figure out who, okay, this person's really good at this and this is what their personality is. And if we fit them into this role, how can they be really successful? And so I love that kind of that puzzle piece of figuring people out and helping them unleash their potential. So
very good.
Yeah.
Well, let's unpack this book. Yeah. All right, dive in. So this started over COVID.
Yeah.
You started typical writing process, outlines, and all that good stuff?
No, I had no idea how to write a book. There's a couple things. One thing that that I knew I wanted to write, and I'm a big believer in intention and practice. So in 2015, I said, I know I want to write a book, and I know I want to speak. This is my true purpose in life, and leadership and running companies fits very well with that. Even though a lot of people are like, I don't see the connection. There's a huge connection. And so I said, well, I better start practicing because I haven't written much more than emails since I got out of high school, really.
Got it.
And I love to write. And so I started a blog, and I would just get my thoughts out there. And that's how I got picked up first by our industry magazine, BIC magazine, and then Forbes and Entrepreneur. And so I had been practicing writing for some time. So when COVID hit and I decided to start writing my book, I had a lot of content that I could already pull from.
Got it.
So I started with that.
Yep.
And then had to pull the rest together. Okay. And what kept me accountable, I'm a big believer in accountability. That's cornerstone of the ownership mindset. Mm-hmm. I joined a writing cohort. And so every other week we would meet and we would talk about, did we keep our writing word count commitment? And then talk about the challenges that we were facing. And that really helped me. I knew I wanted to show up every 2 weeks and do what I said I was going to do. And so that's what helped me get the book done. And
what was your source of inspiration when you needed a recharge during that process? Skiing, running? Yeah, skiing, running. I mean, I'm a huge, I probably am I changed one addiction for another. So instead of, doing drugs, I exercise. Definitely. Fitness buff. That's a good one.
Yeah, getting outside, getting exercise, and really two things. One, keeping the goal in mind. But I'm a big believer that you shouldn't measure yourself on how far you have yet to go, because that can be demoralizing. And when you're writing a book, that's tough. You're like, oh God, that's a good tip. Much more. Yeah. I measure myself on how far I've come. And so whenever I would need that inspiration, I would go back and say, okay, I have half of this book written.
There you go.
That is pretty amazing. Let's just work on one more chapter.
Okay.
Let's just get one chapter done. And that would make me feel like it wasn't like, oh, I have, another 30 chapters to write, or not that many, another 15 chapters to write. Let's just work on one more. And then that way you have 31 done. And so it was, that was how I kept myself motivated. Okay. Yeah.
So the coherence dynamic of a book, you got to kind of string the reader through. Was that an easy process for you, or was that an area where you struggled?
I think my editor really helped me with that.
Yeah.
And so early on, someone said, never underestimate the power of a good editor.
Amen to that.
Get the first book, just get the first draft done.
Yeah.
And then they will help you shape the book, especially for your first book. And so I put it together and I rearranged it multiple times, and I delivered what I thought like this is going to be it. And then she basically restructured the whole thing for me.
Right.
And it was so much better because she's the professional. She's done this, hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, helping authors put together a book that's worth reading. And so she really helped me, and I learned so much by working with an editor on how to structure a book in a way that is compelling. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's interested in writing a book, don't underestimate the power of a good editor.
Right.
Yeah.
So who did you look to for some of the pearls of wisdom that you now impart through your book? Who are some of your mentors, maybe that you've met or haven't met?
Yeah. Lots of different people. My biggest inspiration came from my grandfather. My grandfather moved from the Midwest to follow his dream. He had spent his whole career in retail, worked his way up from, literally he lived on a dirt floor. He was so poor. GI Bill, put himself through college, and then was a vice president of J.C. Penney Company. And he said, I want to be an entrepreneur. And so he packed up his family of 6, and moved to Montrose and bought at the time it was a army supply store, and turned it into a sporting goods store. And he was actually one of the first employee-owned companies, first ESOPs in Colorado. And I didn't really understand that at the time. But he just had this work ethic. And he let me go to work for him when I was 12 years old. And I wound up running the marking room. He ultimately had 3 stores. So all the inventory would come in, have to be marked, like literally with price guns, right? This is before we had fancy point-of-sale systems. And then split up the inventory to go to the 3 different stores. And so I ultimately...
At 12?
Well, I didn't do that at 12, but that's ultimately what I worked my way into.
Got it.
When I left to go to college, I worked part-time. My aunt had to replace that position with 2 people. And I worked, after school and on weekends. But that's because I was so ingrained in the family business. Yeah. And so he just taught me about work ethic, and he gave me a chance to start making my own money at a young age and have responsibility for my work, and I really valued that. So he was a huge inspiration for me.
Sounds like it. Is Grandpa still with us?
He's not.
He's not. Yeah. What was his name?
Gene Omernick.
Very good. Yeah. Hi, Gene. All right. Well, we're going to hang out with Kerry one more quarter here at the Business Digest Weekly. And if you want to look at her website, go to kerrysiggins.com. That's KerrySiggins.com. Great book on the ownership mindset. This is the handbook for transforming your life and leadership. And we're going to get into some of the pearls of wisdom that she wants to impart here in the fourth quarter. And just hang in there, folks. We're almost to the weekend. You're just an hour and 15 minutes away from your first cold toddy. Or maybe you might need a warm one tonight because it's going to get cold. Anyway, stick with us. We're back in a moment. Fourth quarter here, Business Digest Weekly. I'm your host, Dirk Hobbs. I want to give a quick shout out to my friends at the Boot Barn Hall and Venue up on the north end of town. That's our new entertainment district here in Colorado Springs. They help underwrite this show, and also our good friends over at the Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. CSOG.net, great people, amazing physicians. If you want great outcomes, CSOG.net. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, fun group, and we just put on a world-class tournament actually this week, and we raised about $40,000 for the Exodus Road. So if you don't know who they are, they're an anti-human trafficking organization. This is a passion play for my media company, and we put a lot of time and energy into removing the veil of talking about this in social circles and in public discourse, because we tend to shy away from things like that. That's that thing that's happening over in India or China or some other remote place in the world. Actually, folks, you'd be surprised how much is happening here in Southern Colorado. And 70% of human trafficking starts in the family. 70% starts in the family. So it's just bad voodoo, folks, bad medicine, and we've got to shine a light on it. And that's the whole point of this golf tournament, is to get a field of people out there, just 120, 140 at a time, and say, hey, this is what the discussion is. And we can really impact change when we contribute to those types of organizations who are going in and extracting people out of the life and helping set them on terra firma. So anyway, I want to thank everybody who showed up for that golf tournament, our amazing sponsors, our partner in Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, and of course, our beneficiary, the Exodus Road. Amazing individuals. You can see them online as well. And of course, the golfers themselves, they came out and did the hard work. At least it looked hard.
It's the hardest sport. It's so hard.
Well, somebody who's got an 8 handicap.
I know. And my husband is, this past weekend when we went golfing, my son was like, Mom, if he could be scratched today. So my husband's really good too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Jack,
he's an 8 handicap.
8 handicap.
11 years old. Oh, hit a hole in one this summer.
So everybody who has a golf bag in their trunk, their stomach just sank because they're not They're not 11 years old, and they don't have a 12 or an 8 handicap. I know that, and if they say they do, they're not telling you the truth. Anyway, I digress. Kerry Siggins across the board from me. She's president and CEO of a company in Durango called StoneAge Tools. That is one reason she's here, but another reason she's here is to talk about her key leadership in taking ownership. It's a great book that she's got out on the market right now. It's called The Ownership Mindset. This is a handbook for transforming your life in leadership. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad you're here. So we've had a great conversation. I thank you for being here. You stayed overnight. Appreciate that, just to hang out with us.
Absolutely.
And share
Are you
your
kidding?
vision.
I would totally do it again.
Right on. Well, thank you for doing that.
Yes.
So, because I know you got a little bit of a drive ahead of you, but I want to give you the air and the mic right now to really lay some pearls on the business owners that are out there. So I've got retail store owners. I've got folks that are head of aerospace and defense companies and all things in between. How can they start to engender this mindset that you're talking about?
Yeah. So I think the ownership mindset is so incredibly powerful. It's powerful from a personal level and it's powerful from a leadership level.
Okay.
So the basis of the ownership mindset is I'm responsible for everything that happens in my life. Things don't happen to me, they happen because of me. And when you have that mindset, you can tackle any challenge in front of you because you are empowered to fix it. I don't like this. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to own it. And so in the first part of the book, I talk about leading yourself because as a business owner, business leader, or even a manager within an organization or someone striving to be that, you can't lead others well until you lead yourself well.
All right.
And so that's the first part of it. And leading yourself well means being responsible for your attitude, be responsible for your effort, always hold yourself to excellence. Be willing to give and receive feedback because we all need feedback to grow. Understand your strengths and your weakness. Have self-awareness. Like that's what self-leadership is about.
Yeah,
and when you say I'm going to lead myself well, you're owning it. So that's the first aspect. So why that matters for business leaders is that you if you want other people to embody the ownership mindset, you have to embody it first. You've got to be a role model and example. So I live and breathe our values at StoneAge. Like there's nobody who's going to exhibit them better than me because I want to inspire my employees to do the same. Yeah. And so that's a really important aspect. So it starts with leading yourself. The second aspect of it is leading others. And we all want people to take ownership of their work. And the only way that you can do that as a leader is to inspire it. Most of us are conditioned to not speak up, to do just the bare minimum to get by because I'm not going to get rewarded if I go the extra mile. They have stories that they tell themselves about the risk of putting themselves out there, whether that is giving feedback, saying what they really think, sharing an idea, fear of being ridiculed or made fun of or told that that's stupid. And so we as leaders have to coax that out of people. And we do that by building relationships with our employees, understanding who they are, their strengths, their weaknesses, their hopes, their dreams, building trust, giving them autonomy to do their job. How do you delegate decision-making authority to them? And these can be scary things for business leaders, especially like, this is my baby and I don't want to give up that control.
Right.
But if you don't show your employees that you care about them and you invest in them and you trust them, then they are only going to be there for a paycheck. And when you have people who are there only for a paycheck, for a slightly bigger one, they might leave.
It's transactional.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so there's just so many powerful stories in my book about how to go about inspiring that in your employees. And I wrote it as a handbook. So literally you can open it up and go to a chapter and say, I'm having a problem with this, and go get takeaways, actionable things that you can do right now.
Very good.
With very clear examples to address that particular issue.
Okay. So what do you say to the micromanager? This is somebody that's probably counterintuitive to the mindset you're bringing to the table. Regardless of what the pathology is there behind that micromanagement, it is sometimes detrimental to an organization.
Hugely detrimental to an organization. Well, first you need to understand where the micromanagement is coming from, and it's typically control or fear.
Fear, yeah.
And so one of the ways that I talk to micromanagers is to say, what goals do you have? And then I say, if you're irreplaceable, then you're unpromotable.
Oh.
And so
now that's a modicum of wisdom right there.
It is. If nobody else can do the job that you do, then how are you going to grow? How are you going to go after those things that you just told me that you want?
So in effect, they're bolting themselves into being locked there.
Exactly.
Oops.
Exactly. And that has been the most effective way that I have been able to help people recognize their micromanagement tendencies and work on it. Wow. Because you've got to make it about them, right? Those people are coming from an intrinsic motivation of self-preservation.
Right.
And so you have to just switch that focal point of that self-preservation. You're not going to get what you want if nobody else can do the job that you do. Mm-hmm. So why don't we help people learn how to do these things? Let's build that trust and learn how to delegate effectively, because when you do that and people are successful underneath you, that means that you are going to be able to go do the things you want to do. So that's one tip. So
is this book applicable to the 1 and 2 man shop all the way up through the enterprise solution?
Anything.
Okay.
I mean, the ownership mindset is it's something that anybody can adopt. And, StoneAge started out, when I started, we were an $8 million company. We'll do almost $100 million this year. And so we've really gone the gamut of being a small business, growing into, a medium small business per the SBA.
That's right. Right.
And
great.
But yeah, so and all of these things will work. It works for, I have a friend of mine who read it, who has 2 employees, and she's like, I literally pull out your book and I do everything in it because I'm trying to figure out how to scale my company. Mm-hmm. And I just had the former CEO of the WD-40 company read it, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is like I could have used this when I was the CEO of running a multi-billion-dollar company."
So you're onto something here, buddy.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Yeah. Mindset is everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we underestimate that because we're a very skills-based culture. Mm-hmm. And if you can execute, then fine, we'll leave you alone. But there's more to that. Starbucks has kind of gotten into this where they gave employees a stake in the company. I don't know if you're a fan of that or not, but the philosophy of imparting some of the ownership of the company to the employees, it makes them more than transactional employees. They're actually solving problems along the way. Yeah. This should be here. This should be back here to create efficiencies, whatever it might be.
Yep.
Right? Is that... That's
what we do.
I on path here?
We are employee owned. Every single one of my employees owns shares in the company.
That's terrific.
And it's incredibly powerful. It's not a prerequisite, though, to embody the ownership mindset, inspire the ownership mindset within your company. I like to say employee ownership is the icing on the cake. If you have a great culture, that does inspire people to show up and own it. And then when they get to share in the success of the company, that's even better. But you don't have to be an employee-owned company to still teach people how to think and act like owners.
Right. But these cultures do outperform those businesses that don't deploy this methodology.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There's so much. There's a great organization called the National Center for Employee Ownership, the NCEO, nceo.org. I'm on the board. And they have so much data out there that shows how employee engagement is improved in employee-owned companies, profitability, growth. There's absolutely recognizable data that proves worker ownership matters.
Very good. Well, before we get away, and this flew by the way, before we get away, I want to give you about 45 seconds to talk about your speaking engagements. Yeah.
Yeah. So the book, and I've always been a speaker. The first time I ever spoke was at School of Mines, and the keynote speaker for the Colorado High School Softball Association All-State game canceled 2 days before. And my coach at Mines said, "Will you go tell your story, how you decided you were going to go to Mines and get a softball scholarship?" So I spoke in front of 1,000 people for the first time I ever spoke. And I loved it because I had this line of girls coming up to share their story about where they wanted to go to college and how did they get a coach's attention. Wow. And it was so impactful. When you see the way you tell a story makes people see themselves in it. And so I always knew I wanted to speak. But then when I got the book, I just got flooded with people saying, "Can you come and talk about this?"
This is great.
COVID was really a trigger for it because a lot of people kind of like, "Oh yeah, culture, yeah, that's important, but you need to drive financial performance." And now people really care about culture. So I get to go around the world and talk about it.
Well, I hate to do this to you, but we got to run.
I know.
Will you come back?
This is so much fun. Absolutely. I will absolutely come back anytime.
Please
we can talk about all kinds of fun things.
When you're on the Front Range, please give us a call. We'd love to have you back.
Absolutely.
All right. I've been hanging out with Kerry Siggins, author of Ownership Mindset, the handbook for transforming your life and leadership. You've been a great guest. Thank you for sharing everything. And of course, she's president and CEO of StoneAge Tools in Durango. So check them out as well. We'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Business Digest Weekly.
You've been tuned in to Business Digest Weekly with Dirk Hobbs. If you'd like to be considered for a spot on our show, email us at info@coloradomediagroup.com.